And tell me a little bit about yourself and your consultancy with Zing and what you guys are up to.
Sure, yeah. So I'm originally from Chicago. I now live in Dallas, Texas for about 3.5 years. Started this company officially back in 2022, but even before that, I always wanted to be, I was an entrepreneur. I had a eBay store from 2011 to 2020, and then I wanted to build a mobile application back in 2019. So I met one of my current co-founders, Qasim Masood. He's in Pakistan. We teamed up, and I was one of his clients. He built like my mobile app. He said, let's work together. And so in 2021, we just kind of started slowly. And then I brought in my other co-founder, Effie Gittler, back in 2023. So yeah, I mean, it's sort of been kind of ever evolving, as you know, similar with your business. We were initially a software development agency, and we still do that. Last year, it's, you know, taken on more marketing, e-commerce marketing. And we have a new product coming out soon, which is an AI chatbot for e-commerce brands. So that's, I guess, like the general gist of what we're focused on. And yeah.
Very cool. Is that going to be called Zing as well?
Zing Chat.
Nice, nice. So it'll be a plug into on their platform, or how is it going to incorporate in there?
Yeah, it's like a plug and play bot. We're waiting for Shopify to approve it, so it should be live any day now, hopefully. I mean, it's Shopify's app approval process nowadays is pretty lengthy. So, that's, yeah, we're just kind of like waiting for, like, essentially, like, the objective of this product is to help e-commerce brands sell more products. Yeah. So, it's just, like having a customer service agent at your fingertips. It scans the website, so it fully knows everything about all your products, all the ingredients, is a back end to ChatGPT. So everything, it gives very high level information, but it also sticks within the scope. So if you ask it a question about Taylor Swift, it will not answer that question. It's going to focus on the actual scope of what people are asking about. So that's really just what it is, giving as much value as possible, as many people are selling very unique products, especially in the CPG space.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I use ChatGPT is attached to me all day long, so I use it in a variety of administrative purposes that just expedite my days from a productivity standpoint, as well as an aggregation standpoint. So like anytime I'm looking for anything. So I think that's a great idea, and more businesses need to be integrating those features in there, because it's really, I mean, for what you would pay, even if let's say it's $100 or $500 a month, if somebody was paying that, imagine if you had a customer service rep that was doing that. It's like you pay that kind of money, and it's like the value is exponential to having your business be a live living thing, as opposed to a static brochure as we have in the past.
Yeah, I mean, and like also it's 24/7 support. I mean, how many e-commerce brands actually have 24/7 support? I mean, it's maybe like the huge players like an Amazon, but most brands just can't afford that. So especially if you're selling globally or just in general, people could be up late at night. It gives that minimal friction to get your questions answered in real time.
It's that, and I think too that it's a lot of businesses at the early stages. I'm sure you probably work at every scale, right now with your client base. They're every scale from, let's say, $1 million business to maybe a $50,000 a year business or something like that. So in that scale, a lot of people don't realize that getting from the 50,000 to the million is not necessarily a huge investment as much as it is a delegation. And taking that delegation and things like, let's say, AI and your bot and things like that, and people realizing that, like, or it's a person that they're delegating to. A lot of times you get past, when you break through that emotional barrier, and you can finally let go of the administrative tasks of your baby and your business and all this stuff, then you just propel into this place that is unheard of. But how do you kind of walk through, or is there any times where do you work with people and you work with them on scaling and helping them scale their e-commerce through marketing and strategy? How do you help somebody sitting down and saying, okay, here's my budget. Let's say it's $1,000 a month. How can we make this last as long as possible? Is that kind of the conversations that tend to come in, where somebody's giving you the budget and then it's like, okay, you got to do a customization out of the budget?
Correct. I mean, there's certain budgets like that we can't work with. I mean, that's kind of low, right? Because it needs to be a certain amount for retainer plus ad spend. I mean, we have a team, so there's people that has to be paid. It's not just me.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah. So from that standpoint, it has to make sense. And, I can often tell people, if you're early on, first find product market fit. Don't use us do the unscalable things. If you have followers like on Instagram, message those people. Start Facebook groups, go on Reddit, go to events, find out who your audience is, and try to scale organically for as long as possible. Because I think too many people, I had to spend money on ads. And yes, eventually you do, but you don't need to start there. Find product market fit, especially if you're selling a brand new product. Make sure that there's actually enough people that are interested in it before you spend, tens of thousands, even before you spend tens of thousands in manufacturing. You have to kind of slow roll this thing. So that's a big thing that I always have these conversations with people.
Especially, I mean, what do you think as far as your current client base? There's a lot. Do you work with drop shippers as well as people that own their own product?
We don't have any drop shippers right now. It's all people that have their own brands. So we have clients in the beef, direct to consumer beef space, like, grass-fed, grain finished beef. And then we have jewelry. We have a client in the skincare products. So it's not anything super crazy. You could say it's not like reinventing the wheel over here, but for sure, when I've talked to people that are selling some pretty unique products, and okay, like, you're very early. I'm not saying it's not a good product. I'm just not sure if there's that demand. Let me iterate it, get the feedback, talk to some customers, and then from there you can understand, okay, like, is this something worth investing in before? Yeah. So I always try and have those conversations first.
Yeah, it's tricky too, like, to make people understand. It's also that next step of, like, I joke around, it's that American Idol syndrome, where it's you're a great singer in the shower, but are you really that good outside the house?
Right.
And that's where the next level comes, where it's like somebody has an Etsy store to where they're, now they're selling more than $500 or $600. They're selling $1,000. Now they want to get an LLC, and now they're going to legitimize themselves. And I think, how do you choose the right client? And let's say that, because in the world of e-commerce, and I had a stint in it during COVID, and a couple other times in my life, how do you weed through the right type of client for yourself as well? Because there's a lot of people that, like you said, just want to throw money at it and don't realize that there's got to be content behind it. There's got to be authenticity behind it. You can't just pop up. I mean, you can, let's say, but you're going to spend a ridiculous amount of money to just pop up a website and sell it all day long. A lot of people just think, like, I pull it out the $1,000 a month. I said that because that's a lot of the times that's what people bring up with me, and they'll be like, "Oh, what's $1,000 a month going to get me?" And I'm like, it's not a catering service. It's not like, we're just going to get 5,000 cheeseburgers next week.
Yeah, exactly.
With that said, I guess talk through for you how you prospect, and then how you kind of qualify your clients.
Yeah, I mean, qualifying them, prospecting them, we do everything. I mean, mostly it's outbound right now. We're starting to run some ads.
Mm-hmm.
So outbound for sure. I mean, all the channels: LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I mean, we've done it all. So that's really just how we prospect. In terms of qualifying them, I mean, yeah, it's just making sure that how serious they are about e-commerce, right? Because they tell me, hey, my top priority is retail, and it's not a good fit, because it's a collaborative process. We have weekly calls. We're in Slack. Like, if you're focused, dive in all on retail, and you don't care about e-commerce, well, it's like you might not show up for the calls. We're not going to be successful. We have certain guarantees in place, so we have to make sure that they're committed just as much as we are, right? So that's one thing. B, do they have budget? Like, can they, like, if they are going to spend money on ads, if they have the product market fit, do they have enough to actually, say, like, at least $1,000 a month spending on ads, in addition to our retainer, which it depends on what services we're doing for them. So really understanding, okay, what they're trying to accomplish. Like, taking a step back, let's make sure that your goals are realistic. If you're doing, $1,000 a month in revenue, I'm probably not going to help you get to $1 million a month in revenue in the next 6 months. Like, that's just, I wish I could say maybe I can in a very crazy circumstance, but probably not. Tempering expectations of, like, okay, like, yes, that's a great goal, but it's going to, before you get to $1 million, how about 10,000? How about 100,000? It's like understanding, okay, what's possible. So having these conversations and making sure that we're aligned on our goals, because, like I said, it's not just about what's a good fit for them. It has to be a good fit for us as well.
And so, with your services, how deep do you get into when you're working with them? How deep into the consultation process are you, from, like, conception of the idea all the way through what we're talking about right now, which is like execution and fulfillment of the plan.
Yeah, I mean, we're working with them. Typically, it's 12-month contracts, so we're doing all the fulfillment, all of the execution. Like, of course, I mean, part of it is actually making the plan, but part of it is fulfilling, actually doing the work to get them good results, right? Running the ads, running their email campaigns, doing all their social media. The one thing that we don't do is we don't actually have videographers, so they have to give us content. So we don't have video folks or photographers. They actually have to bring somebody in who's taking videos of you and your product, and we can guide them in terms of like influencers and things like that. Say, hey, like, these are like right, fit for you, but we're not going to be doing any recordings. We have like a video editor that can edit the content. We have photo editors. So yeah, I mean, we get pretty deep into like doing the actual work. We don't really, it's more so like the consultation is obviously part of it, but it's actually a done for you process that we do all of it, but we do, like I said, have weekly calls. We're always in Slack. So we're making sure that we're very much aligned in this process, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. And it fascinates me. I'm constantly doing outbound sales all day long, and for a variety of things. And I'm using email sequences, I'm using content, I'm hitting every bell and whistle I can every single day. And I think that one of the things is I appreciate what you guys are doing too, which is allowing people a space for you're serving a niche for one area. You're not trying to say, hey, we're going to be the marketing company for anybody. You're not. You're like, this is where we are. And what happens, I think, sometimes is businesses like in let's say e-commerce or something like that, where I was trying to say earlier about delegation, they hold on to too many tasks and they don't let go of too many tasks, and they don't reach out to people like yourselves and say, hey, listen, we want to get here. But it's whether it's pride, whether it's their worry about finances or a million different things, just reaching out and having that first introductory meeting or that discovery meeting with somebody like yourself, even if it means, the business isn't coming for a year or two, but you can at least have some sort of a trajectory. I think, wouldn't you say like you would encourage anybody that's on the fence about delegating the types of services you guys do, just have that discovery meeting? And some people, it might be less money than you thought, and it might be more work than you thought. It might be, it might be a million different things different than what you did. And I just, too many times people like you and me, I feel like they don't take that discovery meeting, and they don't take that opportunity for sitting down for 15, 20 minutes and just get to know somebody and realize that you might be able to be creative and do something for them that you or them weren't thinking about prior, I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
For sure. I mean, it's very difficult because it is sort of like a red ocean out there. It's like, marketing is such a competitive space. I mean, even for me, it's like I'm in software development. I get like 10, LinkedIn messages and emails a day of like offshore and saying, hey, like we have developers, let me, let's work. I'm like, it's just, and I try to be respectful to everybody, but I'm like, it's not. Say, oh, do you want to have an in-person meeting? I said, I don't even know who you are. I don't really like, so it's just like, for me, I'm like, I really value my time. So I'm trying to make sure, like, is it something that can actually add value, and is it something that I actually need? And for me, it has to make sense.
Yeah, it's the guardedness of getting to meet people is kind of going away with the remote thing, and then all of a sudden it comes back up again. So I think that becomes a challenge with anything. What do you talk about with how you strategize when you're doing your marketing? How do you take it from a weighted approach by platform, or do you take it from like an omni-channel approach, like everything's going out in the same way, and then let's let the engagement kind of judge where we take our next steps? Like, how do you guys analyze? How routinely do you analyze that?
Are you talking about for our?
Yeah, for what you guys do. Yeah, I'm just curious when you put a campaign out. Are you making each platform? Is it a different visual, and as well as like how is each platform different? I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, for our business specifically, I mean, we're focused on Meta right now. We just started, like, for us, for our clients, it's it's hyper specific. So if we're doing Meta, TikTok, Google, it's going to be different. For us specifically, it's very different type of marketing, right? I mean, B2B versus B2C. Our clients are all B2C, so it's very different type of marketing. So yeah, I mean, we're just figuring that out now. For the B2B side, it's kind of a slow roll. So the Meta ads just started, you could say, last week or 2 weeks ago. So that's like a new thing for us. But we're trying to figure out what makes sense. But yeah, I mean, for sure, if we're going to do Google, it's going to be different. If we're going to do TikTok, it's going to be different. I mean, that's in the plan. We're just testing things out because for sure the outbound has been good, but I'm always looking for different ways to reach different people and just seeing what's possible.
Yeah, it's been interesting. Like my kids are obviously in TikTok and everything like that. So I'm only recently into it with this podcast. I just take the clips of the podcast and put it up on TikTok, and it's incredible how many views it gets. And like, I mean, we've had a couple in the past few weeks getting 40,000, 50,000, 27,000. You know, it's like unbelievable and then the data that you get from it is just. I was an early adopter in social media, and when you had to have a college email address to get on Facebook, and so it was one of those things in 2003, I guess, is when I got on, or 2004, whenever it first started. I was a freshman, sophomore in college, and that was a timing thing that I got to see, like the digital connections and the digital networks, and I think that we were talking even to you about where you're like, hey, I'm sitting here and I have a partner in Pakistan that works with me on a consistent basis, and I'll give my shout out to Osama Sheikh and Tekadu. I have the same situation in Pakistan, and he's been working with me for years, and we met as two independent contractors, and we've built like a trust with each other, and he's got I think 20 or so people inside of his agency and stuff like that over there, and I refer him out all over the place to people just because it's an incredible relationship. But what I'm trying to get at is, isn't technology such an incredible thing that we can sit and be somewhere and then completely forge a partnership with someone across the globe without having to be physically in a room next to each other?
100%. Yeah, I mean, we're a remote company. I have lots of people in the Philippines, Pakistan. I have my one co-founder is also like in New York City, and I'm in Dallas, Texas. So for sure, yeah, we have people all over.
Yeah, and in Dallas, I'm trying to think of what else is around in that area. Oh, all the podcasters all going down to Austin and stuff like that too. Is that like I heard that was like a new podcast central down there?
Yeah, I'm actually moving to Austin myself in a month.
Nice.
So, yeah. I've been in Dallas for 3.5 years. Like I'm originally from Chicago, but yeah, I'm moving to Austin soon. So I'll be in that, I guess you could say, podcast hub.
Nice.
Soon. Yeah.
There you go. That's cool, man. Well, tell me a little bit about what's kind of an exciting projects that you guys are working on. Like you have your bot that you're getting ready to bring out. Talk a little bit more about that, and that way people can think about. Talk to me as if I'm somebody that has no idea how that's gonna benefit them, and try to walk through even some rudimentary ways and simple ways that, whether it's through upsell, whether it's through just engaging with the customer to keep them, how that benefits them to keep the customer on the website, etc.
For sure. I mean, many people have very high bounce back rates. They might have lots of traffic on their website, but customers will get lost, especially if you're in the CPG space, if you're selling vitamins, minerals, supplements, any of these types of products. People are always curious, what's actually in it? Is it safe for kids, pets, all these crazy questions? And they have these different objections. And that's why people don't end up buying, right? But the chatbot can help answer those questions in real time. And it helps you better understand your data. What are your customers actually asking about? What do they care about? In terms of like the chatbot specifically, obviously now e-commerce is our focus. But yeah, I mean, our vision is to fuel businesses across different verticals in the next few years. So e-com is what we're focused on now, but in the future, we're definitely going to be in other verticals. But for sure, I mean, e-commerce specifically, the use case is pretty clear. I mean, it really just helps. It's like if you go to a store, right, and there's a salesperson there, the chatbot is that salesperson. Your website is your store. In 2024, that's how it is for most businesses. So it's really giving people that value, right, just in real time. So.
And a lot of times too, it's that they don't realize I watch my metrics on my website and stuff like that, and so every day I dedicate 15 minutes to looking at the analytics, because every day it's different, and I look at like how long everybody's spending, and then which page they're on, and then within which page, and etc. And I'm a little neurotic about it, but it's one of those things that I adapt though, and the reason I watch it is not as a pride thing or an ego thing. It's actually because I'll move things around accordingly. So if all of a sudden like there's an article that's dying or a little bit, I'll move it around accordingly or delete it or do whatever it needs to do if it's just sitting there and taking up dead space. So, a lot of times I know that I'm an anomaly when it comes to that, and a lot of people put up their websites and maybe 10 years go by before they take a look at them. But talk a little bit about your recommendation as far as how often, if I have an e-commerce store, like how often should I be going behind the scenes and making sure that everything, just checking everything out and stuff like that.
I mean, most e-com founders are checking it every day. I mean, just like you are. It's like to see where the traffic's coming in, because it's also in terms of your product, right? Where are people buying it? Where are they popular? Right? If you're selling some natural products, maybe people in bigger cities like in Austin, maybe in Dallas or New York, LA, where are people buying, especially if you have a vision? Okay, I want to go into retail, right? So if that's your vision, then essentially, saying, okay, if I have a lot of customers in New York, that's a good place to go in because people there know my brand, right? But if you're going to go to a city where people have never heard of your brand, people are just going to walk by it in the retail store. So understanding your data, understanding what your vision is for your products, those things are super critical.
Yeah, it's when I was in the brand management space in wholesale, when people would come in for us to pick us, or for us to pick them up in the portfolio, it was always, how's your home market, how's your website? And they didn't understand. A lot of times it made sense to them, and sometimes it didn't, because and depending on what state they were with their alcohol, they couldn't sell or whatever else. But for the most part, we wanted to know that they had a positive community around them, whether that community was digital or it was physical. And, I feel like too many times people are coming in because they feel like still to this day that they have a great brand, or they have a great idea, or they have a great name, or they have a great portfolio of products, but they don't realize, like, when it comes down to that transition, like you're saying, from e-commerce to bricks and mortar, that transition, especially with the distributors and everything like that, you need data to give yourself credibility. And I think that having a successful website is the easiest way to gain that data. So I think working with businesses like yourself is a really smart way for people to accelerate that, because it allows them all that credibility as they want to grow their brand and wholesale distribution later.
100%.
And in the flip side, if let's say your e-commerce brand is a multi-vendor aspect, you could be a valuable asset to that. Let's say you're just the e-commerce portfolio, or you're just the middleman. You're not actually the creator of the products. You then could create a consulting agency or something like that out of your data and help your vendors curtail their marketing to then grow the business overall. And once you start looking at data as an education standpoint, and not just some draining thing that's on the black and white screen and drives us crazy, and you look at it as the art and the science meeting each other, that's where the magic happens.
100%.
I think that for like when you're talking about e-commerce brands, what do you see there ever being a shakeout of these? Like, is there ever like a technology that can like shut down all of these fake drop shipping sites that are just empty vessels of nothing? Or is that the future that we will be dealing with?
I don't know. I mean, I personally don't really work in that space at all.
Yeah.
Obviously I work in e-commerce, and you see this drop shipping stuff, and I mean, to what extent, how big it is, I don't know. I rarely meet people in the drop shipping industry. The people that I talk to, most of them, I mean, here and there, but 99% of them have their own brands. So they're selling their own products, and, it's not sustainable. Yeah, sure. I mean, there are people that had done well on Amazon, and maybe in the past, but things are changing very quickly. Amazon is changing policies day by day. So to run your business on there, once again, I'm not saying people, if you're up there, you can do very well, but at the same time, Amazon can come in 2 seconds, take your product, build their own version of it, and kick you out the door. And that's what they do all the time. So, drop shipping. I mean, Amazon is really, I mean, they're the 100-pound gorilla. I mean, they're going to eat people's lunch, whether they like it or not. So it's like, I mean, if you're doing drop shipping, maybe on Shopify, some people are. But I think that business, like in general, I think is sort of fading away. It's not as big as it was even a few years ago. So people are more keen towards specific brands and, brand loyalty, things like that. And sure, yeah, you can make products in China, things like that. And it's not a big thing. Many people do that, but it's like using your own brand, leveraging that, creating a fandom around your products and a community. And I think in drop shipping, you don't really see that much of that at all. It's kind of, you could say empty metrics or an empty kind of domain, if that makes sense.
No, exactly. Tell me about yourself. Walk me through your history. So take me to 18, 19-year-old Daniel. Let's what's going through your head and what's the future got in store for you?
For sure. So around when I was 17, 18, I started my eBay store. So essentially for me, my first company was more of a hobby. When I was 12 years old, I always wanted to be a baseball player. So I started collecting signed baseball cards. Like I used to mail them to my favorite players, get them signed and sell them on eBay. When I was 17, I realized like I didn't make my high school team. I'm like, this is not going to happen. I'm never going to play pro baseball. Let me focus on something else. And I just really hyper focused and locked in on this hobby. I grew up in Chicago, so I used to go to downtown, wait by the team's hotel, get cards signed and sell them on eBay. And that's how it got started. Like I went to college I went to college in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So also not a small city. They have major sports teams. So when the Bucks visiting team or like the Brewers visiting teams were in town, same thing. I would go to games, go to the hotel, get autographs, sell them online. I used to go, political events with where like Adam Sandler was doing a stand-up comedy, like things like that, and just you could say hustling and chasing.
Well, what a smart way too to go to a convention, because the barrier to entry to celebrity is broken down. And that, like, what a smart idea to do it that way rather than going to like a comedy club where his guard's up. You go to a convention where they're just, they're really relaxed. What a smart idea.
Well, it was a comedy show, just waiting outside. There's an area.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
But it's like we would chase into the hotel and back, and it's just crazy stuff that like, awesome. So it was everything. I mean, but they were cool and they were used to it, especially in cities like when they go to like LA and New York, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, probably not expecting that sort of
you're a caravan of
but they were like, it was cool. So for me, it's kind of when I first got started into entrepreneurship, and I was in college, but I would sit in class and actually list stuff on my eBay store because I'm like, I just wasn't interested in what these professors were teaching about these hypothetical scenarios. I was like, okay, let me actually learn more about business and just do it myself. I got certain classes where they brought in guest speakers, entrepreneurs or business leaders, like that was interesting. But classes with like hypothetical scenarios of career professors never appealed to me. But yeah, I mean, for me, that's when I first got started. But back in 2019, like as I mentioned, I wanted to do something bigger. And at that time, I was maybe 26, 25. So I wanted to do something bigger. So I built like this mobile app with Qasim, one of my current co-founders in Pakistan. And in 2020, I moved to Texas. I sold my eBay business and I went, I was also working full time, but I went in on this mobile app and I was not really fully dedicated to it. I was, working a full-time job. I just moved to Texas, so I kind of gave up on it. And that's when Qasim said, listen, man, why don't we start this business working together? So I just started slowly as like a software development company back in 2021. And, lots of iterations, pivots. I was in consulting. And about a year ago, I was furloughed from my job. So I went full-time, gave it a shot. And it's lots of, pivots and iterations. But thank God, I mean, we definitely been getting some good traction. So, yeah.
That's awesome, and nothing great. I got to go back to the grit of this the signatures and autographs. What was the name of that business?
Chicago's Memorabilia.
Chicago. Did you have the domain and everything?
It was just an eBay store.
Oh, the eBay store, yeah. So,
but it was. I mean, I had over 10,000 items. I mean, it was not a small.
What years are this?
2011 to 2020.
Nice. I was like right before that. I was doing on eBay and on Amazon. I just got into college in 2003, and it was right when Amazon was coming through with the textbooks. So I would sit outside of and if you went in and turned your textbooks into the school store, you got less money than if I sold it for you on Amazon. So I sat outside the school store when people were bringing back their textbooks, and I started collecting them and buying them from cheaper, and then I'd sold them on Amazon. Then I went to, it was eBay and Amazon. Was the DVDs was a big one, and my friends all make fun of me because I used to have thousands of DVDs in my bedroom, and I was packing slips all day long, individually selling them, because Walmart had those $5 bins. But if you went there on the day where Walmart was filling those bins, you got good movies for $5, and people were paying them $19.99 on Amazon for them. So we're kindred spirits in the early days of flipping online, for sure.
Exactly.
I love that Chicago memorabilia. I love that, running around like. So did you stay in any sort of track, or was it like, okay, we'll do anything that was it just, let me get back up. How did you choose? Was it the value of what the end deliverable would be? Is that how you targeted what you would spend your nights and weekends chasing?
When I first started, just it was more so people that I enjoyed. So like, athletes, and NBA, NFL, MLB, like especially like in Chicago, it's a big industry and it's a big city. There was like a website, I'm not sure if it's still around, called CSAC, and it was like Chicago sports autographs. So they would like give you emails and they would send you emails of like all the events in Chicago.
Oh, wow.
It goes a calendar, and it was like, oh yeah, like, I don't know, Brian Urlacher is going to be at this, place at this time, and so I would get those emails. Like I would know. That's actually how I first got started. But I would I lived near like where the Bears practice and where the Bulls practice, so I figured out like what time they would finish. So I would just wait for them so it's just really like, at first I was like 17, 18. I was just people who I was like fans of. But yeah, that's just kind of how it got started. Like over time, I was like, okay, like checking all these different websites, seeing who was in town, seeing like who signed autographs. Cause like, sure, like,
right.
LeBron James is, a big name, but he doesn't really sign autographs very often. So it's like, for me, I didn't really spend too much time chasing him because I knew he wouldn't really sign for me. But it was like, okay, like Steph Curry is a good player. He signs typically. So it's like, that's a good, team to go for. So it's kind of like strategically based on different groups or forums or people I talk to, seeing like, who to go for, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. And the reason I also lead to it is, are you still flipping on the side?
No. I sold that business in 2020 when I moved to Texas. There's a guy who I was like kind of working with, and he came in a minivan, took all the inventory. I was using my parents' basement. It was like 10,000. Like my parents were so happy, but he took everything. I sold like everything I had. So I don't have any autographs, and I think to my name now it is. So yeah,
that's a wild story though. There's a to connect with you on that. It's when I was doing the brewery stuff, I would fly around the country and try and sell breweries on Pennsylvania and building their distribution networks. But when you're out there and when I was going with the convention and the conference, that was one of my strategies. Was I went to all the conferences and conventions because everybody was more relaxed than if you showed up at their office. So I would just go out and would go to a convention, never attend the sessions, and just mingle with everybody. And I would just do that 3 or 4 times a year. But my point is, I'll never forget, and nobody will ever really understand unless you've done it, that moment where you're standing on the corner and you're waiting, you're just trying to time that person walking towards you. And then you're in your head trying to figure out what you're going to say. And then you're trying to figure out which hand to hold it in. And then you're looking at that extreme analysis from the 5 seconds while they're coming up to you. I don't know. I just wanted to share that with you.
Yeah, for sure. 100%.
You know what I mean? It takes a step to do that. And,
I was just like, okay, like, it's like, is this the right person? You have the card and you're like looking, is this, so-and-so. And sometimes I'm like, oh, it's like, that's not me. I'm like, oh.
And I'm like, I have to remind myself sometimes, like, I'm 6'3", almost 300 pounds. So like, I'll have to remind myself, like, when it's nighttime, like, don't hang out in the alley waiting for the person, like, things like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, hey, Dan, I appreciate you taking the time, man. I appreciate you telling your story. Well, hey, where everybody can find you, check your website, social media handles, and everything like that.
Sure, yeah. Like our website is myzing.io. Same for social media. Like if you want to reach out to me, it's Dan P. Melnick. You can email me, dan@myzing.io.
Awesome, Dan. Hey, thanks again for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Nate.
All right, you have a great rest of your day.
You too. All right, bye.
If you have a story to share or you know someone with an inspiring journey, the Free Mind Podcast wants to hear from you. Submit your story or nominate somebody to be our next guest. Check out our website, thefreemindpodcast.com, and be a part of the conversation that truly matters.